Okay, so you're looking to become a better hitter in MLB The Show 22's Diamond Dynasty. Well, you've come to the right place. If you're a beginner at the game, you're chasing those sliders way out of the zone, maybe those changeups in the dirt, fastballs way up at the eyes, can't lay off of those pitches, and you're striking yourself out essentially. This video is going to improve your gameplay 100%, I can promise you that. So I don't want to mess around, let's get right into my hitting tips video. All right, so let's first start with the settings. This is only going to work with one, maybe two hitting views, so you have to make sure that this is your first adjustment. Strike zone 2 is what I would recommend, and the reason why this is important is because you are going to be paying attention to the pitcher inside the strike zone when he is delivering. You're not going to be paying sole attention to the ball, and that sounds ridiculous, but I promise you, you got to bear with me here. Strike zone 1 can also work, but I find that it is just too close, and it's very difficult to lay off pitches below the strike zone. Other than that, when it comes to your PCI, this is completely preferential. So what I use is I use the PCI center set to circles, the PCI inner set to basic, and then I have the PCI color as magenta, 100% transparency, and then I have the fade out set to inner and outer. I enjoy less clutter, and I think that if you don't have any fade outs, it's just going to leave you with some more distractions on screen, and you just want to get rid of that. So here is what the hitting view looks like and all of the settings in action. You'll notice my PCI is literally just the circles, that is it, and maybe that seems like a little less for you guys, but again, I think the less clutter is going to improve your gameplay, but that is all up to you. This isn't something that there is a meta to. Hitting specifically in the show is really preferential, and there's going to be a lot of things that work for you that don't work for others and vice versa. Now with this hitting view, you'll notice that the pitcher is dead in the middle of the plate, and that is going to be super important. What you are going to do is kind of zone out from the ball the second it is released from the pitcher's hand. That might seem completely counterintuitive, but what you want to do is notice if the ball crosses over in front of the pitcher. Because the pitcher is lined up perfectly with the middle of the plate, this is going to keep your focus right inside the best part that you can actually hit when you're facing an opponent. So if you are a left-handed batter facing a right-handed pitcher and you notice the ball does not cross in front of the pitcher at all, then you know that that is going to be an outside pitch. And vice versa, if the pitch comes in front of the pitcher almost immediately, you know that that is going to be really inside. And even if it is a strike, that's okay, because it's probably going to be a pitch that's difficult to hit. Just because a pitch is a strike doesn't mean that that is going to be a home run ball. This is going to help you reduce bad contact swings as well. Those ones where you just get a piece of a cutter that's touching the plate and it kind of just rolls to the first or third baseman. Now, what I would recommend is not just do this right in game. I would go into practice mode, and you don't even need to swing. You just need to start realizing and getting a better sense of the pitch crossing in front of the pitcher. So what I do is I pay attention. You'll see that the pitcher lined up with the middle of the plate, and see when the ball crosses in front, you'll know and be able to start to read that that is going to be inside. Okay, even that pitch right there, that fastball, that isn't necessarily going to be a home run ball unless you are sitting on it, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. This is going to dramatically decrease the amount of balls that you chase outside of the zone, or again, those bad contact pitches. So again, just to recap, guys, you want to pay attention to the pitcher and ignore the ball the second it is released. It's going to sound extremely odd when you hear it, but once you get into the game, you will understand what I am talking about. You want to kind of fade out the pitch right when it comes out of the pitcher's hand. Pay attention to the pitcher and wait and see if it crosses over in front of the pitcher's view. That is going to indicate to you if that pitch itself is going to be in the middle of the strike zone. All right, now there's a lot more that goes into hitting than just this method, and something that I really like to focus on is the tendencies of your opponent. Just the first inning alone, usually I don't swing at all, and the reason being is, especially in ranked seasons, when it comes to events or BR, those are only 3-inning games, and obviously that's going to be a little bit more difficult to do it because the game is so much shorter. But ranked seasons, you're going to go 9 innings against your opponent, and you need to understand what his tendencies are. So again, you want to make sure that your main focus is the pitcher, because again, that is going to be the center of the plate. And just watching the ball a few times is going to drive up his pitch count, and you're going to see what that pitcher actually, his pitches actually look like. Now it's the bottom of the second, one out. I've already seen 33 pitches, and as you can see in this at bat, the ball crosses in front of the pitcher about a half a second after it is released. I know that that is going to be in the middle of the plate, and we send this one into orbit pretty easily. Guys, when it comes to hitting with your pitcher, something that I would always recommend doing is just driving the pitch count up. Do not swing until 2 strikes. Obviously, in certain situations, you can bunt. Striking out with your pitcher, okay, that's one thing. If you have someone on first base and you've just started the game, I wouldn't even mess around with bunting early on because you just want to make sure that you don't go into a double play. Another huge benefit of this method, like I said, is driving the pitch count out. What you want to focus on, regardless if you score runs or not, is to try and get to 15 pitches each inning, especially early on in the game, because there is not a lot of top-end amazing relievers. And in addition to that, the more pitches that you are seeing from a specific pitcher, the more you are able to recognize what they're actually throwing and more tendency info that you have on them. In this at bat right here, I know that he has been throwing strikes early on in the count, and I follow the crossover method, and it's an easy single to start the inning. All right, now the next thing I want to talk about is one of the biggest additions to MLB The Show 22, and that's the PCI anchor. Especially when you are a newer player, if you are struggling with slamming your PCI, which is essentially just tracking a ball and then at the last second slamming it down, this is really going to help with that. I've been mentioning this throughout the whole video that seeing a ton of pitches each inning is beneficial regardless if you actually score any runs, and this is a perfect example of that. Because I've seen almost 70 pitches by the 4th inning, I know that he is trying to go inside a lot, and because I'm already on 2 strikes and I have to protect the plate, I prepare for an inside pitch, and then I just wait for the one that I can actually turn on. The next thing I want to talk about, guys, is what to do when you are playing an extremely good pitcher. And what makes up a good pitcher is when they are completely unpredictable. So maybe you think that an off-speed pitch like a slider or a curveball is coming in and they throw fastballs. You think that it's coming in inside and it ends up going outside, and you end up just reacting to every single pitch. You have no predictability at all. You have no idea what is coming. And that is when you see a lot of people just chase and they get very impatient. When you get into a situation like that, and you're going to see that a lot when you start to get up in ranks in terms of ranked season. Once you get to Hall of Fame, you're going to see a lot of games. You'll match up with people of the same skill level, and because they're not used to the new pitch speeds, you'll see a lot of 0-0 games. When you get into those situations, guys, sit for 1 pitch and 1 pitch only. For an example, the up and in fastball is a very, very common pitch that people like to use because it is very difficult to catch up to when you're not an extremely good hitter. So if you're going up against the 99 Randy Johnson, you might have to sit for 2 complete at-bats without swinging at anything. Even if you strike out in 6 pitches, you are waiting for that 1 pitch, because if you are just trying to keep chasing whatever they're doing, you're just going to strike out anyway. So you sit for that fastball up and in. You can do this by clicking in the PCI anchor, by clicking in L3 and putting it up and inside, so that gives you some assistance, and then you just wait for that fastball because you know that it's going to come eventually. And it might not be the up and in fastball, it might be a slider away that they throw in the zone every once in a while. Find the 1 pitch that you are going to sit and refuse to swing at anything else, even if it is a strike. Now I want to talk a little bit about what makes a good hitter in terms of attributes and what you want to focus on when you're building your team. When you first get the game and you're just starting out, you're going to be playing on All-Star, and that is a really easy level of play. It doesn't get really difficult until Hall of Fame. That doesn't mean that All-Star is extremely easy for new players to just hit everything, but what it does mean is that the PCI is going to be very big no matter what. So the bigger the PCI, the easier it is to get it on the ball. Obviously, if they've got a really small PCI, you're going to have to be dead on when you go and actually go for a hit. So what makes the PCI bigger? That is the contact rating. So the contact rating on Mitch Haniger, for example, 77 against righties, 100 against lefties. When you're playing on All-Star, that makes his PCI huge. Really early on, when you're playing and just trying to figure out the game, what I would recommend is prioritize power over everything. And the reason for that is that the PCI is going to be so big on All-Star, and you're not going to get a ton of hits because you are newer to the game. You want to make sure that when you get those hits, you have a shot to send it into the bleachers.
Gone forever.
So in contrast, players like the 90 overall Ray Durham, they have a much higher contact rating than they do power. And while that's still very good, if you're not going to get a lot of hits, having guys that just get singles or doubles isn't going to be as beneficial as home runs, obviously, early on. Now, once you get into ranked seasons and you start playing Hall of Fame level, that's when the meta kind of switches, and you really need to have players that have higher contact ratings because the PCI gets much smaller on those higher difficulties. But early on, while you're trying to learn the game, I would really prioritize power. When it comes to choosing what swing to use, so there is normal, power, or contact, always be using the normal swing. This would be X on PlayStation or A on Xbox. Don't mess around with power or contact. The only situation in which you would use any of them would be the power swing, and that would be during an offline moment where you've got to try and hit a home run with someone like Jackie Robinson or a player that does not have a lot of power. You've got to get some extra base hits. I would then use the power swing, but when you're playing online, always stick to the normal swing. So guys, let me know if the crossover method has worked for you. I have heard nothing but great things, and in my own gameplay starting last year when I implemented it, I've seen a huge improvement in my game. If you enjoyed the video, guys, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you next time. Have a good one.